It's coming up to Christmas 2015, or at least it is at the time that I'm shooting this, and therefore it's time to do a few specials, I suppose. People have asked me to do some special videos. Last year, 2014, I put together a few short videos about things that I bought over the years that I thought were interesting. The Curta calculator, David Niven's check, things like that. And people want some more things like that. Unfortunately, I haven't bought a lot of interesting things in the last 12 months. Those things have been picked up over the years. So I've looked around to see what else I've got, and rather than going to sort of the strictly hands holding things type video, I want to do a bit to camera because I've got more of a story based around these, although perhaps not the most interesting story, but I'll try and keep it brief. But these are going to be a bit of a more of a monologue. Of course, this one about the Vectrex. Now, if you don't know about the Vectrex, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to explain it all to you. There's so many online things about these that you can find everything you want to know about who made it, how it was created, what happened to the company, what games came out for it. I mean, even the Wikipedia article's got everything that you need to know about it. I'm going to give you more of a story about my relationship with one of these and just generally how I ended up having two of them. So these are unscripted, of course, which means there's going to be lots of ummings and ahhings, those things. So just bear with it. If you don't like this kind of thing, I suggest you stop now because it's just going to be me talking to the camera with a couple of Vectrexes buzzing away in the background. So the Vectrex, what do I remember about it? Well, of course, I was born in the early 70s. So around about the time it came out in Europe, which was 83, I was 12 or 13 or something. And I think I recall seeing one in a shop window, because back then information was very hard to come by, especially if you were that age as well. Who's going to tell you anything? So I think I recall seeing one of these in a shop window, obviously not plugged in at the time, nothing ever was. And I just thought it was a television, although with a weird screen. I didn't understand why it had a vertical screen on it. Now, assuming it was just a black and white TV, I didn't really pay any attention after that. And of course, without them plugging it in and showing games on it, who's to know what it is? Although I do think at the time, if I'd seen a black and white games machine in sort of 83, I wouldn't have been that impressed. I would have just gone, oh, and moved on, because of course I'd got a Spectrum, I think, by that time, and I played on people's Ataris and things. I didn't have one myself. You had to be a bit rich to have an Atari. So I remember everyone's playing colour games, of course, colour games in the arcades, and then of course along comes a black and white console. I wouldn't have really paid it much attention. Anyway, I remember fast forward a few years, 1984, could have been 85, not too sure. I remember Woolworths were selling them off cheaply. This was the rumour that went around the playground anyway. You could get a Vectrex for £40. Now, I don't really know at the time what I knew about the Vectrex, but I knew I wanted one for £40. So me and a friend went down to Woolworths in town on the bus. £40 each we managed to get together from our parents, I think. And went in, and of course they didn't have any, which was a major disappointment. And I seem to recall that we then went on to Dixon's to see if we could spend our money there, and decided not to bother getting anything. But that was it. So that was my sort of 80s experience of the Vectrex. Never managed to see one in action, never managed to play one, and didn't manage to own one. So go forward to the 1990s. I've got a PC. I'm playing emulators. I'm playing the sort of Vector games and MAME and things like that. The Vector games always look particularly impressive for some reason. I don't know why. I just got an attraction towards them. So I think at this point, of course, reading things online, it's dial-up, I suppose. There was an awful lot online already about the Vectrex. People were still talking about the Vectrex because it's a unique machine. It, of course, as you can see, it has a screen built into it, and the screen displays vector graphics. Now, it's the only vector graphics machine that's ever come out. And even in the kind of 1990s PC days, there's still something about vector graphics that is ageless, really. And there was a lot of online community. People were making games for them and things. So for some reason I ended up picking one up. I think I found it in a newspaper. I don't think eBay was a big thing back then, at least it wasn't for me. So I managed to find it in a local paper. Bought a couple from a chap in a really dodgy house somewhere. I was a bit terrified, but anyway, I drove over in I think I had an MG Midget at the time, and stuck both of these in the car and put one on the passenger seat, I think. And I got two. One was broken, one worked. He said it was like that. Now, I remember the broken one, when I opened it up trying to fix it, it was really knackered. I think someone had spilt something in it many years ago. A sticky drink, the whole thing was ruined. But it was a very early one. You could tell from the circuit board that it was one of the early models, because inside both of these, they've got a different circuit board. It kind of, the original ones had loads of like soldered in things, whereas these are more sort of surface mount. But I ended up with another one, because the one I got then started failing a little bit. It wouldn't switch on for a while, so I went and bought another one. I thought, great, I might as well get one while I can. And then it's just started working again at one point and hasn't stopped since. So I've got two Vectrexes. I'm not showing off. So that was 1990 odd, late 90s, I think. I've just got them down off the shelf. People have seen them in the back of previous videos, which is why I'm showing them to you now. They sort of asked me about them. To be honest, I don't really know an awful lot. I remember I got quite soon after I got them, I got the multi-cart. This is the Sean Kelly multi-cart. So this is 2000, and I don't know how I even bought this. My memory is terrible, but I'm thinking, I wasn't using PayPal back then. This guy's in America, I think. I've got no idea how I ended up getting hold of this. I had some sort of online thing, perhaps, but I'm just not sure how I even paid the chap. Anyway, I couldn't send him a check. I don't think people like international checks. Maybe I did a bank transfer or something. Anyway, I got hold of that, and that's got all the games on that I couldn't get. At the time I got these, I got a stack of cartridges, which I've got no idea where they are now. None of them came with the overlays. The overlays are the things that, of course, they made like this to colour the screen in a little bit. Sometimes the overlays would have bits of information on. I've got another one in this box here. Let me just get into this. This is for a game that I bought later on. Star Sling. So, but you see, you got a colours on there, and the idea is, of course, adds a bit of colour to a black and white screen. Also notice things like player 1, player 2. On this screen up here, see where it says 0 there, it would say like score or something next to that, so add a bit of text in there, because of course a Vectrex isn't very good at displaying text, because it does everything drawn out of lines. Now, I remember seeing, just before I bought these, it was sometime in the 90s, I saw a Asteroids machine in an arcade, still working. And it was just sat there on its own amongst all these other games. I suppose people were playing Street Fighter or something, not too sure. I did Double Dragon, all that kind of thing. But there was this sort of sad old Asteroids machine sat in the middle of it. And I remember seeing those vectors gliding across the screen ever so smoothly on that vector monitor. And it kind of stood out. It's a very early display technology for an arcade game, but for some reason it just holds up so well, this vector display. Now, of course, the Vectrex only displays vectors in the games that came out originally. Notice it's trying to do game over there, made out of little dots. But the graphics in it aren't displayed properly like a vector. It is a vector display, but it's using a CRT that could actually display a television with different circuitry. The proper vector display like you'd see in an arcade is even better than this. You've got this sort of really high resolution. It's nice and sharp and everything, but there's something about those old vector games, if you play the old Star Wars vector game, if you can find that you won't get if you try and play on an emulator on a computer. Of course, if you had a computer nowadays, you're not generally going to have a CRT monitor, but even if you had a CRT monitor, you still don't get the same vector display, because what's happening is, rather than drawing the whole thing top to bottom like you'd get on a normal display, with your 60 Hz, your 50 Hz, your refresh rate, there isn't really refresh rate on this, because the little electron guns moving around, drawing these things on the screen all over, so it doesn't necessarily go top to bottom, it's just drawing them. Now, the more things you have on screen, the harder it is for it to draw it, and that's when you start getting flicker on them. But there's some, so you see some of these things are moving very smoothly, but the more and more you put on it, the more flicker, and it doesn't look so good actually when you get a load of things going on. One thing I do like particularly, this game here, Protector. This is something that I bought in 2003, and on screen it'll say that it's number, it says on the box as well, 81 out of 100. So they only made 100 of these with this lovely box. It just looks like one of those Ultimate Play the Game cardboard boxes, if you remember those. And they made it with a screen overlay as well, which of course isn't necessary to play the game, but very nice. It's one of the few I've got. And the game is a clone of Defender, but absolutely brilliant copy of it. I mean, it's definitely the best game I've got on Vectrex, which is weird because of course this thing came out 82 in America, 83 in Europe, and possibly the best game created on it was made in 2003, and that's an awful long time for people to be attracted to a particular console. I know people still make things for the Ataris and things, but there's something very special about the Vectrex. So over the years, the reason I'm talking about this now is there's certain things that I didn't manage to get when I was young that kind of played in my mind, the fact that I've missed out on them a little bit, and the Vectrex is one of those things. So missing out on it in 84, perhaps, or 85, ended up picking one up in maybe 99, got a multi-cart in 2000, got the best game made on it in 2003, and that's pretty much the end of the story. Since then, I don't play them an awful lot, I don't have time to play games, but it's just something that I like to tick off in that kind of bucket list of things that I wanted at some point in my life, and now I managed to have. So you'll see them in the background of certain videos sat on the shelf and things. The reason they're here is because I'm not going to stick them up in the loft where they could get damaged. This is the room that tends to have all the things in that I want to keep nice and dry and safe, so that's why you'll see them in the corners. It's not because I'm playing them all the time, it's just because I want to look after them. How long they're going to last, I don't know. Of course, circuits don't last forever, but it's great that they're still around now, all these years after being made. If you want to see a Vectrex in action, well, I'd suggest you get down to all those retro game things or something, because you're not going to be able to see the same effect on a monitor. However much somebody gets their high-resolution camera and records one of these, you just don't get the same effect in person that you do from actually seeing one of them. One thing I was thinking about, though, the Vector graphics can display quite a few different brightnesses, and the really bright one really sticks out. I mean, you don't, a kind of brightness that you don't get on any other display. You'll be watching a normal computer monitor, you don't get anything that really sort of pops out and really bright as some of these things can get here, some of these lines. And I was thinking, as these HDR televisions become more popular, it might be that more of a factor that you can get stuff that looks like this and does pop out a little bit more, but I still don't think you'll get the full Vector kind of effect that you do with one of these. So if you do manage to find an old Retro Games arcade, go and have a go on some of the old Vector games, because there's just something a little bit magical about the way that they display. But anyway, I think I've probably outstayed my welcome a little bit. So that's the end of this little monologue about the Vectrex and how I fit into it, how it fits into my life. And if you like this, I'll try and make another video like this about something else that I've got lying around. But if you don't, then this will be the last one before Christmas. Anyway, regardless, thanks for watching.